Alright, in class 6, we're going to cover vector graphics and type inside of Photoshop. So to do that, I'm just going to go to Bing, and I'm just going to type in bottle, and we'll do images, and I'm just going to grab like a random bottle. So we'll say, just grab this one. Alright, and I'm just going to save this image, and we're going to use it as kind of a guide here. So desktop, save, and I'm in folder, and I'm going to open this up. So just get a picture of a bottle that you can use, and I'm going to open with Photoshop. Okay, and let's get rid of this. Alright, nope. Okay, so a lot of times what you might end up dealing with is you might need to make a graphic. So if we were to look at this guy here, let me just duplicate him. Turn this one off. If I took this image and I made it small, really small, and then I decided to make it big. Oof, I made it too small. You can see it's super pixelated, right? So like that's not real handy. But I could use it as a guide, although I made that way too small. So but anyway, I can take this. Actually, let's do this. I don't understand what's going on here. Okay. I could take this, and one of the problems that we have is that when you take raster images and you make them small, okay, Control+++, and if I go to make this big, you will notice that it's only viewable as so big, okay? Because raster images basically are made of a bunch of pixels. So as I go zoom into this guy, you can see each individual, let me get closer even. You can see each individual pixel, right? Pixel just stands for picture element. So basically an image is only as nice looking or round or what have you based on the number of pixels in that picture. So if you have something that's low resolution, you can only blow it up so big. This isn't always really great because let's say I want to do a big banner, or you have a logo or something that might go on a bunch of different things. Typically you want to do those in what we call vector graphics. And the idea with a vector graphic is that you can have a shape instead. So I could draw, like, let's say this circle here, okay? And I could take it and I could make it, right? Oh, apparently, okay, hang on a second. Let's undo that. Let's make a new layer and go back to this. And instead of doing pixels, make sure it's a shape. I could make a shape, okay? And then let's give it a fill too. There we go. Okay. I could take this shape here, and no matter how small I make it, right, and enter, and then take it and Control T, shoink, or how big I make it, it never loses any resolution. Okay. We're looking at the pixels because that's how big the pixels are in the artwork here. But the idea here is that, let me make it, is that instead of being made of pixels, it's actually made of vectors. And what that means is that if you were to look at it, it's actually made of these mathematical, into a regular, yeah, it's fine, into, it's got, this one in particular has these 4 points, okay? So it's made of vectors, like you think of a vector, right, X and Y. So it has these points. And then in these points, it draws a line on the outside here, which is called a stroke. Okay, so right now this has a yellow stroke on it, and then it's filled, the inside shape is the fill. And you can control those two aspects. So you control the thickness of the stroke, right? So I can make it thinner and thicker, and I can change the color of the fill. And using a bunch of these in tandem or just having one, you can make a variety of shapes. So it's really good for creating graphics and logos and those sort of things. It's not as good at creating images. Like if you want to do a person and things like that, it is possible, but it takes a really long time. And it takes a lot of shapes. It's sort of a exercise in tedium. But it's a useful skill. Now, Photoshop can, as you can already tell, it can make vectors, but it's not necessarily the best at it. Adobe Illustrator is actually the main vector editing software. We're also going to do a little bit of vectors in InDesign, but just the fact that it can handle it is actually pretty nice. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to show you how to create some vector artwork. So I'm going to take this and delete it, and I'll just use this bottle. But if you had a low resolution bottle, I could actually use this one also as a guide. So I'm going to have this one. I'm going to make a layer above it, and I am going to show you. We don't need this anymore. Let's get rid of you. Okay, I'm going to show you basically how I would draw this shape. So oops, that's not what I wanted. All right. So we have a couple different vector drawing options. So I'm just going to go ahead and use this pen here. So there's the pen tool, the freeform, so on and so forth. The pen tool is the basic tool that you will see most people use. So I'm going to do the pen, and then I'm just going to make sure it's on shape so that it actually, you'll see this pen, path, and then pixels. If it's pixels, it literally, if I'm on this one, and if I do pixels, it will make a raster image, which means that this is not a vector. It'll have the same issues that this would. So it just literally makes a shape in the normal way that you would expect it to. Okay. So here we go. So I'm just going to make sure it's on shape, not path. And I'm going to go ahead and I'll just do a black line. Actually, let's do a red line. And then I'm going to make the thickness, let's say 2 pixels, so I can kind of see it. Actually, let's do 4 pixels. All right. Now, if you have the pen tool, and if I made a new layer, if I click, 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 you'll see that it will create solid lines. Now, if I go over to the last one, you'll see it'll turn into, I don't know, you can't tell, but there's a little circle. That means it'll complete it, okay? And if I have a fill on, that will be the fill of it, okay? If I have no, this is, so you can do solids, no color, solid color, and you can do gradient. I don't know if you can tell that that line has a gradient in it, and there's different options here. And we can adjust these as well. Or you can do pattern. So we'll just do solid colors, and you can see it there. And you can see the fill has the same thing, where I could also do gradients. Okay, yay! And you can adjust the gradients here. Cover that in a little bit. Let's just leave it as a solid color, and we'll do red. Okay. All right. Now you might be like, okay, well that's great if it's just a solid thing. What if you don't want that? So I'm just going to make a new layer. I'm going to take this one, just throw this one away. What if you want to do curves? Use the same tool, but and you can see I have nothing on the fill here again, just so I can see what I'm doing. If you have fill on, let's say I do purple, you'll notice that it will actually start to draw the shape. It gets kind of annoying if you're trying to trace something. So that's why I'm not. Well, it's going to be undo all the way around. Okay. So I'm just going to leave this as none. But if you click and drag, these are the Bezier handles, okay? And then I click and drag in the direction I'm going. Click and drag, click and drag, click and drag. And I can also click if I want to create straights. You can do both. But if you click and drag, you can actually create curves. So that's basically, so you click for straights and you click and drag to create curves. All right. Now, if for some reason you want to get rid of some of these, you can go underneath here and you'll see that there is the add anchor point or delete anchor point. So if I need to add a point, I can go hover over it, see a little plus. That will create one. And if I use the delete anchor point, I can hover over one, and let's say I want to get rid of this straight one. That will delete them. So you can delete as many as you like. Now let's say, let's add another, there's also the convert. So if you look at here, let's say I want this to be not a curved one. If you click on it, it'll make it a straight one. Oops, come on. So if I click on it, it'll become a straight. If I click and drag over it, I can create the Bezier. So if I click and drag, it will create that. But if I just click, well, that one's already a straight. If I click and drag, if I just click, it'll make it back to a straight one. So that's what the convert does. And then this is just another way of drawing. These two are just different ways of drawing the curve, which we'll cover in a little bit. Okay, so I'm once again just going to go ahead and delete that. And I am going to start drawing this bottle. So I'm going to go to the pen tool here, and we will start doing that. So I'm going to start at the top here, and I'm going to control plus so I can see a little bit better. And I'm just going to do the base here, and we'll just do a cap. So I'm going to click. Then I'm going to click and drag. Then I'm going to click and drag. Then I'm going to click and drag. I'll put one here, click and drag. And I will click and drag. Click and drag. And then I'm trying to put it wherever the peaks or the valleys are. So generally you're told to do a little bit of each, and then I'm just going to click here, and then I'm going to click and drag this direction, and then click to there. And then you'll see I have now made this here. Now, I may need to add or I may need to remove some. So I already showed you how to do that. Now, if you actually hover over an empty line, you can see you don't actually need to use the add or delete anchor point. If you just hover over an area, it will actually, come on. It's not doing it now. Oh, because it's not selected. If it's, let me do it this way. If it's selected, when I hover over, it'll turn to a plus and it will add a point. And if I hover over one of these, it will remove the point. So you don't even have to switch the tools. And if you want to convert, you can hold the Alt button or Option key, and I can also convert it. So you actually don't need to switch to these, but if you feel more comfortable doing that, you can do that. Now, what if you just need to tweak them? What you could do is go to, so this is the Select tool, which just means it'll grab whole objects and what have you. This is the Direct Select tool, or do they call it okay. Sometimes it's Sub Select, but they call it Direct Select tool. There's also Path Select, which we'll do later, but Direct Select. What that'll allow me to do is I can click on it and I can see the points, and I can actually grab them and move them. So it allows me to move the points individually as well as the handles here. Okay. Now, you may have noticed I was a little bit off down here. So I'm going to click and I'm going to drag this, let's say, over here. But if I click, if I click and drag, oh, it is letting me move it. So I might need to move one side, but I'm like, oh, I don't want to move so much. I can pull this side down so it doesn't curve quite so much. And I can take this and pull this one down. So I can individually move them. But let's say I want to pull this one out this way, but I don't want to affect this one. If I hold the Alt Option, I'm sorry, if I hold, should be Alt Option. Yeah, Alt Option. You can see I can move this one without moving the other handle. So I can kind of control the way that this gets moved a little bit. So I'm going to hold Alt Option, and then I'm able to basically adjust one but not necessarily have to affect the other. Alright, so imagine I did a good job. Now, I'm mostly happy with this, but it should be filled, and I actually don't want this outline. So what I'm going to do is go up here, and as long as I have it selected, you can see the options right here. I can go ahead and take my fill, and let's click on this, and I will sample this color. Let's go like that, and hit OK. So now that's the fill. I'm going to click on the stroke and turn that off. And voila, now we've got this here. Okay, so that's pretty cool. Okay, so let's make a cap for this. So to make a cap, I can go to this, and if I hit click and hold, you say I do rectangle, rounded rectangle, ellipse, polygon, line tool, and custom shape. So rectangle will make a rectangle. I need to make a new layer to put it on. You notice that it was, when I was on here, it wasn't letting me because you can only have one shape per layer. And I'm going to go ahead and turn this to shapes. And you can see I have some options up here. Now this will just make a rectangle. Nothing too fancy about it. If you do rounded rectangle, you'll see you'll have another option right here where it says radius. That's how round it's going to be. So watch if I up this radius. See how it did nothing? Let's try 100. Okay, maybe I have to draw another one. Okay, I thought it would automatically change that one. But you can see it will actually round out that. So that's useful. Ellipse makes rounds. Polygon, you can change the number of sides. So right now it's got 5, so it's making that many sides. I could change this to, let's say, 8. If I need to do a stop sign, bam, look at it. See, there's 8 sides, so that's polygon. And then there is line, which draws a line, and custom shape tool. And then basically it has these pre-built ones in here. So if for some reason I need an arrow, which can be kind of useful. It will draw me out an arrow. And there's more. You can probably download more and put them in there, and you'll have other options and things. So that could be useful as well. I'm just going to go ahead and go over the regular rectangle tool. And I'm just going to go ahead and do fill. I'm going to do a dark green, and I'm going to do nothing for the stroke. And I'm going to draw a cap up here. Boom. And I don't like the color of that, so I'm going to click on this, click on here, and I'm just going to make it darker. Okay, so now and we'll control ++. And I want to add some points to this to give it kind of a lip. So I'm going to go to my pen tool here, and I'm going to hit like 1, 2, and 1, 2. Then I'm going to go to my direct select tool, and I'm going to grab this one and this one. So I click on one, hold shift, click the other one. I'm going to drag this out. Boom. I'm going to click on this one by holding shift and drag that out. And then you can see like, oh, these don't look real good. So I'm going to click and drag over these two. Notice I clicked off because they might accidentally have all of them selected. So I'm going to grab both of these, and I'm just going to move these down so it sort of lines up. And I'm going to click and drag over these two. Pull this back a little bit. Try to match it up a little bit better there. Now, also it'd be nice if these were rounded, so I'm going to go back to the pen tool. And notice it's not giving me the option. I have to select it first. I'm going to click on it, then go back to the pen tool. I'm going to click and drag to create a rounded one. It's not going to be right. And I'm going to click and drag. And then I'm going to go back to the select tool to fix it right here, because I just want to pull it down so it's a little bit curved. I'm going to take this one, flatten that out, and then pull it up so it's a little bit curved. Muy bueno. Yay! Okay, so that's all looking like it's a thing that was done. Now let's make it look a little bit better. So to further adjust this, I'm going to go ahead and use my direct select tool. I'm going to select on this shape here, make sure I got it. And to my fill, I'm going to switch to a gradient, okay? And I'm going to switch to, let's do a, does this one got 3 colors? Let's do a 3-color one. I'm going to click on the, I'm going to double click on this blue to change the color. And I'm going to change the color to, let me see, this is going to be my light color. So I'll do like a light green. I'm going to double click on this red. And we'll do like a darker green. And then I'm going to double click on this, and we'll do kind of a, actually we're going to do kind of a blue highlighty thing. Okay, I'm going to take this guy, pull this down. Now, you can see I can move these around. I can also shift the way these blend. Okay, generally I would leave them in the middle. I can add some by clicking in here. Oops, sorry, not that. By clicking in here. I can also take it away by click and dragging it off. So I can click in there, and then double click on that, and choose, you know, another kind of whatever green, hit OK. Okay. That way I can kind of push this across this way. Now, you can see right now I can change the angle of it. So we'll go ahead and change the angle. So it's more like that. And we'll call that good. Then I'm going to go over here to the paint bucket, and I'm going to do the gradient tool. Oh, wait, hang on a second. Yeah, no, I'm going to leave it like that. Okay. Let's see, let's go back to this, and I need to shift this around a little bit more, so let's shift this down. Let me see, scale. Oh, here we go. I'm just going to use scale a little bit. There, that's a little better. Okay, that way it's got a little more variation in it, but it's not like so much. Okay, that looks like a thing. Now, we can also add a thing which we haven't done before, and that's layer styles. I'm going to turn off this background layer because we don't need that anymore. So with this selected, you may have noticed that we've used this mask, and these are the, yeah, don't worry about that. This folder, so on and so forth. But if you look, there's just effects. So what I want to do is I'm going to bevel and emboss. So if I just click on it, it's going to automatically pop open this little options here. And you can have multiple ones on there. So I'm going to take my depth, and I'm going to go ahead and drive that up, up a little bit. Let's see, scale, there we go. Take scale up. I'm going to soften it all the way. And let's see, inner bevel, outer bevel, emboss. Yeah, I like the emboss a little bit better. And yeah, we want to do smooth. Depth, go pretty high. Size, there we go. do, and I want to change the angle so it's this way. Okay. And highlight screen. Let's take the opacity down a little bit. Actually, I'm kind of okay with that. And the shadow mode to multiply, which means it's only going to add dark. This only adds light. I'm going to bring that down a bunch so it does not quite so strong. All right. I'm also going to do a gradient overlay, because why not? So gradient overlay, what that'll do is it's just going to add a, it's going to add, in this case, it's going to be light to dark. Where is it? Yeah, so we have highlight mode, blah, blah, blah. Wait, sorry. Let's get to it. Nope, not color overlay. Color overlay will just straight up remove it. So I actually have to select it. So you can see it's doing dark, and it's just doing dark. Okay, so I can change the angle of this. So I'm just going to kind of go like that. And that looks okay. And we'll call that good. Yay! And there's a bunch more in there. And so what I would suggest is just playing around with them. So let's select this one, do FX, and let's do drop shadow so you can kind of see what that does. So that's going to create a drop shadow. And you can choose the distance, the angle, so on and so forth. So I'm just going to go ahead and do like that. But you can see now there's a drop shadow underneath this. And we will also do a bevel and emboss. That looks fine. And we'll hit OK. Yay. So you can see it's got a lot more dimension to it. Now let's go ahead and do some other thing. I'm going to make a new layer. And I'm going to show you the other pen tool options. So there's freeform pen tool. So I'm going to grab that. I'm going to take my fill and make it white. All right, and we don't need any stroke. And basically, this just means you draw, and it creates a shape. So I'm just going to draw some highlights here. So I'm just going to kind of go like so. We'll just do another one here. Great. Now, that's all fine and dandy. Let's go ahead and, can I select both of them? Select both of them? Nah, I only do one at a time. So I'm select the first one. And imagine I did a good job. I'm going to go to Effects, and then we're going to go ahead, and you can see there's Inner Glow, Outer Glow. Let's do Outer Glow. And I'm just going to, let's see, range. All right. Let's see. Oh, here we go. Spread. That's what I wanted. And size. So that basically is going to adjust if you want to make something glow. I just want to give that a little more, stuff there. And let's see, copy. So I right-clicked over top of it, copy layer style. I'm going to go over to this one, right-click, and I want to, paste layer style. And that way this one has the same thing, okay? And there's a bunch of other ones too, so you can check them out and play around with it, and that's how you'll learn best. Okay, so that's good. So let's do the type stuff. So I'm just going to draw a line here, and then you can kind of see what we're going to do with that. So, let's do some type. So it's kind of what you'd expect. I'm assuming you already know all this stuff, but there's a bunch of different options here. So I'm just going to do this one, right? And so you have a bunch of fonts, and it was what you would expect. So regular is fine. This is the size, sharp. This is the color. So let's leave it orange. Why not? And I'm just going to say, cone. That'll be the name of my drink. Now, and we can make it 3D, and we can also do this. If you click on this button, this one's fun. It'll allow me to create an arc. You can adjust how much the bend is. And there's different ones, like there's this one, which will keep the sides straight. So it doesn't arch this way, as opposed to this one, which you'll see, let me do it more. See how it bends past? The other one keeps it straight. So let's do this one. See what I'm saying? It keeps up and down. So let's go ahead and I'm going to go this direction a little bit, hit OK. And then I'm going to take it and put it up here, and then I'm going to Control T or Command T if you're on a Mac. There we go. Enter. Good. So that says cone. You can do this, which is kind of fun. So let's do no fill, and let's do just black to start with. I could draw like a line, okay? And then afterwards, if you take your type tool, and you can see there's vertical type too, but we'll just do regular type tool. When I hover over it, see a little line pops up? If I click on that, when I draw my stuff, it'll actually write it on the line. Now you can see it's not showing up, it's only showing the first ones, because if you look really close, there's this little symbol there. That is where this comes, path selection tool. That will allow me to drag that line so the rest of it shows up. So if you're trying to draw on a line, that's how you'd fix it. Then what I would do is go back and select this and, oops, not that one. let's click on it here. There we go. Select it here. It's easiest just to grab it that way, and I'm gonna take my stroke and make that nothing as well, and that way you don't see the line. So it has no fill and no stroke, but I can use it as a way to draw on top of my thing. Yeah, so that is vectors and text in a nutshell, we'll say. All right, there's more to it, but you can kind of play around with it. So let's go back to here. There we go. So the vectors, yeah, pen tool, you can see all this stuff. That's great. Type, yeah, okay. So your final project, that's what to do next class. Basically, you have to make whatever you want. So it could be a poster, it could be a CD cover. Well, CDs don't really exist anymore. It could be any number of things. It could be a series of photos where you just do adjustments to them. It could be that you like repair a really terrible image. Really, it's kind of a blue sky assignment. Just make sure that it looks like a final project. And also on class 7 is going to be the final class of this class before the next one. And we are going to have an exam, which basically means it's going to be, I'm going to give you stipulations of things that you have to do. And then you have to make an image based on what I tell you. Okay, so you might want to bring a camera to be prepared. But that's it. All right. Go team.